Welcome. I'm R.J. Smith, writer-editor here at the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. I helped work on the exhibit Rosanne Cash, Time is a Mirror. After my conversation with Rosanne, we'll have a short break. Well, first we'll have questions for about 15 minutes. So if you have questions for Rosanne, be thinking about them now, and then we'll take them as you got them. And after that, we'll have a very quick break to clear the stage, and then they'll come out and play some music. Since the late 1970s, Rosanne Cash has been staking out new musical territory over and over, defining and redefining American roots sounds. She writes songs that feast on rockabilly beats, on the truth-telling of folk rock songwriters, on California country rock energy and new wave sound and style, and on the history, the whole history of country music. She's a 4-time Grammy winner with hits like 7-Year Ache, Blue Moon with Heartache, I Don't Know Why You Don't Want Me, I Don't Want to Spoil the Party, It Hasn't Happened Yet, Tennessee Flat Top Box, No Memories Hanging Around, and Never Be You, among others. And she has carried an unwavering artistic spirit and brought it right to this moment. In 2021, time is a mirror. In 2021, Cash became the first female composer to receive the McDowell Medal, awarded since 1960 to an artist who has made an outstanding contribution to American culture. Other honors include a Smithsonian Ingenuity Award, the Americana Free Speech Award, and election as an honorary member of the American Academy of Arts and Letters. It's been an honor and a kick to work with her on her current exhibition, Rosanne Cash, Time is a Mirror. Please welcome her now.
Did you say I was around in 1921? Did I hear you say that?
I said I was around in 1921. No.
I heard it.
Oh, dear. All right. No redos. So we made it. We're here. We tried once before when the exhibit opened, and we did it when we could do it. And I'm so glad you are here now.
I am too. I'm really sorry about making you wait. I lost my voice for a month.
Oh. Yeah.
Steroids brings it back.
Well, I went back to your memoir, Composed, where you talk about losing your voice for several years.
Yeah.
When did that happen? And, what went through your mind when it happened? What did it feel like to suddenly not be able to hear your voice?
Yeah, I had vocal polyps. It's kind of the scourge of singers, really. And I lost my voice for a couple of years the first time. And I always considered myself first a songwriter, and that was my identity, how I thought of myself. So I thought, oh, well, okay, this is annoying and lose my voice, but, it's not the center of who I think I am. Well, it turns out it was. After a few months, I started to get really melancholy and feel a tremendous sense of loss. And I thought to myself, well, if I get my voice back, I'm not gonna criticize it anymore, because I had that constant self-editing, critical voice, and I thought, well, I'm not going to do that to myself anymore if I get it back. I'm going to be grateful for what I have.
How did you do that?
Not very well. I still criticize. I still, edit, like, oh, you're a little flat. Why couldn't you do it that, I think that's just part of it. I think the thing I ended up with is accepting that voice can be helpful, that critical voice as an editor or to challenge you, but that it's not necessary to tear yourself down constantly. But anyway, I did get my voice back, and then I lost it again for a few months, a few years later. So it's a little in the background, a bit of trouble that's waiting behind the curtain if I'm not careful. And I lost it again in December. But again, a couple rounds of steroids and it comes back.
Yeah. How do you feel about your voice, not as not as something that works or takes a break, but just the way you sing nowadays. It's changed maybe, and I wonder how you feel about it.
It's interesting you're starting the conversation with the voice. That, you know, in the beginning I thought, well, I'm never going to sound like Emmylou, and it was such a disappointment to me that I didn't have her instrument, that I didn't have that kind of crystalline with the, you know, her upper range and the way her voice was like, you know, diamonds in the snow. That I had a deeper, warmer, more round voice, but I didn't appreciate that. I thought Emmylou was the standard, and she was a friend of mine. We've been friends for 40 years, you know, and I did learn to stop comparing myself to her and appreciate what I had myself. So today, I feel the urgency of age, which is that I still have a lot to say. I have less time to say it. And a voice is a finite instrument. At some point, you know, it's going to crumble. And, well, Tony Bennett stayed pretty intact up until 90, so, you know, but he's all or not all that lucky. So I figured, man, I better make the best use of it while I still have it.
Well, early on in your career, in some of your very first interviews that I've come across, you often cited two singers as personal inspirations, Patsy Cline and Judy Garland. And what was it that you heard in them at the beginning of your career, and how did you bring them into your own performance?
Well, I don't know that I did so much, but I admired Patsy for, she was someone I could say, well, she's got a warm, deep voice, and look how she sounds, she's fantastic. So that was inspiring to me and something I held on to. And also, what really got me is how she was not afraid to just be authentically herself in every situation. She cursed like a sailor. She was, she just didn't give a damn what other people thought about her, really. And her voice was so natural and so resonant and full of emotion. So I really admired all of that. She didn't have pretense about her, like a lot of performers do. Judy Garland, when I was younger, I listened to this live recording of her at Carnegie Hall many times because technically she wasn't perfect by then, but it was all feeling, it was all emotion, and she gave everything to the audience. So those two women, you know, they're different gifts. It was a powerful inspiration, and if we had put the two of them together, that would have been a revolution.
Did you ever meet Patsy Cline?
I did, but I don't remember. I was too young. My mother told me, she said, I wrote this little piece about Patsy for the New York Times. And so I called my mom up when I was writing it, and I said, did we ever meet? Did I ever meet her? And she said, well, yes, honey. You know, when she came off the road with your daddy, and you kids were all there at the house that day. And I was like, I have no memory of that, and I will regret that for the rest of my life.
It's interesting how artists grow and reach out to new sources of inspiration. In 2020, you wrote an article for the Oxford American about one more singer, someone you've called the godmother of soul. Who was the godmother of soul, and how did she come into your life?
Sister Rosetta Tharpe. When I was young, through my life, I remember my dad saying that his favorite singer was Sister Rosetta Tharpe. So I figured, well, if that's his favorite singer, I need to know something about her. So I did a deep dive into Sister Rosetta, and there's this clip you can find on YouTube of her on this British TV show. You've seen it, I'm sure. And she's in an abandoned rail station outside in the rain for a UK audience who was sitting on the other side of the track. It was very contrived, this set that they made up with a hay bale and a wheel and all this nonsense, and her arriving on a cart, and it was just wild. But there was absolutely no self-consciousness about this. She just walked up, strapped on her guitar, strummed the wrong chord, and then looked at her band and said, what's the key, you know, and then went right back into playing it. It was so, and then the liberation you could see on her when she was performing was so awe-inspiring. I've watched that clip, I don't know, a million times. It's a master class in performance, if nothing else, just those few minutes. That's where she is on the train station.
I was wondering if that was the set.
That's the crypt with her white coat on. So it's a lot like Patsy, you know, she just didn't care what other people thought. And she was probably bisexual. She played secular music, but started in gospel, which was unheard of in the South in that time, to play secular. Well, it was also, you didn't come out as bisexual in the South as a black woman in that time either. But she just, was so authentically herself, you know? She lived her life and gave everything to her art. She got married in a stadium. And had people pay for the privilege to see her get married.
We have a short clip of one of her famous songs.
Oh, cool.
Strange things happening every day.
Oh my God, yeah. She was a powerhouse.
So, you know, when I listen to her sing and play guitar, you know, you can hear her communicating Pentecostal currents by way of her voice, by way of the body that she moves in some of her performances. It's a possession by a greater force. Whatever you think it is, it's something powerful. And I wonder, when you sing, do you ever feel greater forces moving through you?
Yeah, but I wouldn't. Some people say it's God, the Spirit. I think it is a spirit, but I think it's this greater creative force that you can tap into when you're cooking, when your imagination is running free, when you're stopped being self-conscious, when you're in the pure moment and focused on what you're doing and creating something. And I mean, I think it's a high calling. It is a spiritual experience, but I wouldn't say it's a religious experience. It's when we're most connected to each other and our own humanity and our own creative spirits. You know, to try to get in that zone and is bliss. I wanted to say one more thing about Sister Rosetta, though, is that Keith Richards said that, you know, you can trace everything back to her, including himself.
All right. I did not know that.
Yeah, all of the rock guitarists, they all give it up for Sister Rosetta.
So at various times in your career, you know, you've called yourself primarily or at the top of the list a singer or a songwriter or a writer. And I wonder, what term nowadays do you find yourself using? It's a label question. It's one of those writer questions.
A nana. I'm a nana. And two of them are here. Those two little tiny people over there. I mean, those things take precedence as you get older. Right. Absolutely. It's like the greatest joys. And, you know, when I think about the future now, I think about them. But as far as my work life, yeah, I'm a writer. I mean, I'm a singer and I'm a writer. that it's like saying, well, I'm 5'4" and I have brown eyes and I'm a writer and a singer and a songwriter. It's just, it's DNA.
Well, I'm going to change in a slightly different direction. So at the center of the exhibit, there's a writing desk that your father used and then bequeathed to you. And I there we go. It's we worked hard on this, and there's a number of objects that are kind of hard to tell here, but there's the desk. On it, there's an illustration from a photographer friend who was kind of evoking your creative mind. Ideas are floating and images are floating out of the mind. There's hands that a friend of yours, a great artist, she makes casts of great women's hands. I wish she could have done Sister Rosetta Tharpe,
I know.
but she did Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she did Joni Mitchell's hands, and she did your hands.
Gloria Steinem.
Gloria Steinem.
She did a lot of women's hands. It's pretty amazing display she has.
And so that's a place in the exhibit where we were trying to break the chronological flow, the standard way of telling a story for good, and sometimes to rest upon too much. And we wanted to illustrate, step back and have people kind of experience or be able to visualize a creative force, you as an artist. And you write in your book, and you've talked to me about a dream you had, and we evoke it when you if you haven't seen the exhibit, it's kind of written about in that space in the exhibit, a dream you had where you felt it kind of forced you to define yourself as an artist.
I was about to start making, or I think maybe I was making my album King's Record Shop, and I had this dream about Linda Ronstadt. And I know Linda, and I truly, deeply respect her. And she had said this thing that I had written on a piece of paper, and I kept it in my wallet. She said, you have to refine your skills so you can support your instincts. And I thought that was the perfect thing for an artist to remember. So one night while making that record, I had this dream that I went to a party, and Linda was there. And she was sitting on a sofa talking, very engaged in a conversation with this man. And I knew the man's name was Art. He was an old man. And I went up and I sat by Linda and tried to get into the conversation. And Art turned to me very coldly and he said, "We don't respect dilettantes." And I woke up like in a cold sweat, like, oh, you haven't, I felt I haven't been devoted. I haven't committed myself to the degree I could and should. And it changed my life. I made a decision that day. I was going to work harder, go deeper, express more, and I'm still doing it.
Well, I'm going to jump all the way back to the
1921.
Oh, yeah, not quite that far back, but to being born in Memphis. Memories of the place, or how long did you live there before you moved west?
I was only there till I was 3, but I do have one memory of being in Memphis, and it's of walking down the block, and a big man is holding my hand, and we're walking to the candy store. It's so clear to me. So that's the one memory I have of Memphis. My dad taking me to a candy store. I don't remember that day at the zoo. I was a year old. But I'm proud of being born in Memphis. That time in Memphis, 1955, when I was born, the hot stew of music that was in Memphis at that time. B.B. King was the DJ on WDIA radio, and the blues that was going on, the rockabilly that my dad and Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis all started out at Sun Records then, and Tommy Dorsey was down the street doing something in a hotel. It was the crux of a revolution, really, in music.
So when you moved to Southern California, how did that begin to shape you just as a kid, as someone consuming culture? What was that? It was different than Memphis.
Well, the first thing I felt was mine, besides what my parents listened to and my dad's music and what my mom was listening to. My mom loved Ray Charles and Marty Robbins and Patsy, and all of that went in by osmosis, all of it great. But then in second grade, when I heard the Beatles on the radio, I was struck blind and dumb. And all I could think was, how do I find that on the radio again? And that was a life changer for me. I became president of a Beatles fan club. My room was papered with the Beatles everywhere. My dad brought me autograph of the Beatles for Rosanne. Wait, do you have it in the exhibit?
We have it in the exhibit.
Oh my God, you do. That's right.
I should have had a picture of it.
I forgot that I gave it to you. And the signature is so faded now, you can barely read it. But, that changed my life too, because I deconstructed those songs. At first, I deconstructed them kind of unconsciously. Oh, well, this is how verse, chorus, bridge, that's how that all works. And then I went back as a songwriter and deconstructed them consciously. So they still have a profound influence on me. And I married I could not marry a man who didn't love the Beatles as much as me. And so I found him and married him.
I've heard you say in other interviews, actually, that because you grew up in what you called an abnormal home or a troubled home, abnormal is the word that you used, that you always wanted to know what normal people did.
Right.
What do you mean?
So my childhood was not normal. There's this... John and I have a son, and one day we were at dinner, and, John and I are traveling musicians, and we make records, and we have somewhat of a public life. And my son was about 8 years old, and we were at dinner, and he just stopped, and he goes, "I'm not having a normal childhood." And John said, "Son, compared to Mom, it's normal." So, yeah, it wasn't a normal childhood by any means. And so I started looking for what was normal and trying to copy that. Like, I read all of the Laura Ingalls Wilder's books, and I thought, okay, you do washing on Monday, and then you're baking on Tuesday, then you scrub the house, and then you take the rugs out and hit them on Friday. Okay, got it. And then as I got older, okay, you have champagne and caviar on New Year's Eve. Okay, got it, And I think there's been a part of me that's wanted to find that out, to feel normal, to have a house where things were predictable. And I actually worked hard at that and did a pretty good job. You'll have to ask my daughters. But, I wanted to be home for parent-teacher meetings and for school plays and stuff. So I made an effort to make that happen.
I really want to ask about your mom, who many people may not know that much about. Perhaps a lot of us have heard about the list, the tally of essential songs that your father would share with you to baptize you in the texts of country music and folk music and American music. I mean, you made a fine 2009 album called The List from some of those songs, but your mom took it upon herself to give you her list.
Yeah.
And it's on view in the exhibit. What do the songs that she wanted you to know about, what do they tell us about who she was?
I think she was very much influenced by, that's my mom in the middle, and her mother, my grandmother, Irene Liberto, on her side, and me, and my hair looks red even then, and I wasn't dyeing it then. It's so interesting. So I went back to my natural color. She, the songs that were popular when she was a teenager in Texas, I think that she really loved that. And like I said, she loved Marty Robbins and Patsy and some of the great pop ballads of the day as well. She had very specific tastes.
A romantic.
Romantic, that's a very good way to put it. She was. Sentimental.
Okay. After you graduate from high school, your father is clean and sober, your parents are divorced, and there's a spirit, I think, of restarting between you and your father, maybe.
Yeah.
And he does this thing where he invited you onto the tour bus with the Carter family and other stars from time to time on a series of tours.
Mm-hmm.
It really sounds like an amazing, the way you've talked about it is an amazing ride and an amazing, a great way to spend your gap year. Tell us about being on that bus and what it felt like.
I think that picture, I had probably wrecked the car.
You know what I think? Like, he was on an episode of Columbo once, and this is like that moment where Columbo would come in and say, "Oh, one more thing," and you know, the guilty party would be.
Yeah. Yeah, my stepsister and I, Rosie and I took his car out one night and had too much to drink and really messed up the car, and he was not happy. I don't think that was that moment, but what was the question?
Well, just I wish I could have been on that bus. As just
the bus, right?
You know, just traveling around and seeing all these people and the fun of just doing it.
You know, when you're 18, you don't really soak it in. Like, looking back at it now, I think, man, why didn't I take more pictures? Why didn't I video stuff? You know, it's like, but at the time, it's just the fun you're having, the life you're living. And yeah, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from sitting in the wings and watching my dad perform for those 3 years. And seeing the relationship he had with his audience, how much he respected his audience. And he taught me so much on that tour, you know. It's like, just remember, they're using their discretionary income. They got a babysitter. They're coming out to see you. Don't disrespect your audience. Show up on time. Don't ever forget what town you're in, you know, no matter how many you've done in a row. His work ethic was really beautiful, and the respect he gave his audience was obviously reflected back to him, you know? And I think he worked out a lot of problems under the spotlight. A lot of his sorrow and deepest wounds he could take to an audience, and there was something purifying about that moment. You know, I've thought of that millions of times, and I've found some of that myself, and I've realized it's to do with connection and community. Like, you create a community in 2 hours that will never exist again, maybe, and a show that will never exist again. The temporal nature of that is the beauty of it, too. But there is something spiritual and purifying about what you can do with an audience if you really show up for work, if you're really there, if you're not phoning it in.
So he brings you out on the bus, and first, he's not asking you to do anything. And
No.
Then what? Maybe he says, "Sing from the wings."
Yeah.
and then he says, "Just come out and sing one song."
Yeah. So that was my stepsister Rosie and I were on the road. She passed away at the age of 45. She died actually a month after my dad. It was a really terrible time. But she and I were on the road together, and he said that finally. He goes, "Why don't you girls just come out and sing, you know, on the chorus of this song called Allegheny?" I don't even remember how it goes. But we went out and we were just like this, terrified. But then it started growing, and we started doing more, and, you know, thought we were really hot stuff and really terrible. But I was going to say, I forgot to say that on that tour were the Carter family and Carl Perkins. So I spent a lot of time in the dressing room with the Carter women and Carl. Carl was always off in a corner just playing to himself. But then I started asking June and Helen and Anita and Maybelle if they would teach me some of the Carter family songs, because I was just learning to play guitar. So Helen Carter particularly spent a lot of time with me, teaching me those Appalachian ballads. And I owe those women a tremendous debt for what they taught me, just in those hours in dressing rooms while Dad was on stage.
Well, I'm jumping ahead a lot in time here, but this isn't a biographical day. This is a conversation.
Yeah.
When you first came to Nashville in the late 1970s as a launching your career, you arrived famously with purple hair.
Yeah.
You were Brat before Brat. And
I was Brat before Brat?
well, you know, the kids call it Brat.
No, I know that, RJ.
All right. I'll be doing this all day, folks.
I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday.
So, what was the message? Was there a message, or was it just, that's who I am?
The insouciance of youth. I had so much hubris as you know, late teens, early 20s. I was living in California, living in Los Angeles, married Rodney Crowell, had two daughters, Hannah and Caitlin's here. And, you know, I was part of this kind of edgy rock folk scene out there, hanging out with a lot of wild people, and I just dyed my hair purple. Then we decided to move to Nashville, and I came with my purple hair, and it's like, it wasn't done here. It was like I had dropped from another planet. It took me a while to integrate.
So did you integrate, or did you teach them how to?
No, I didn't teach anybody anything.
Well,
it was uncomfortable for me for a while. It was a much tighter community, and the mores were different. And if you were in country music, there was a particular way you were expected to act and look and talk. And I didn't know that. And I ended up running into some walls because of that.
Well, you were bringing a new sound, you and those people from the West Coast that started in various places in the country, but you're bringing in kind of something new to country music and American music. You were, of course, a central hitmaker in country music in the 80s. But kind of speaking to that and speaking to what you were just talking about, the clash of coming into this guy culture, this Nashville boys club. You did an amazing conversation that's on the internet with Nico Case in 2022 at Rodney Crowell's songwriting camp, I think here in Nashville. And you told a story about a meeting that you had with maybe folks from the A&R department in maybe it was 1982.
Yeah.
And anything you could say about that? It's sort of an illustration.
Well, I moved to Nashville in '82 from Los Angeles, so my was transferred to the Nashville division of the record label. I was on Columbia then. And so I went in to the first marketing meeting after moving here. I think 7 Year Ache was out. The album 7 Year Ache had been released. And it was all men in the marketing meeting and me. There were literally no other women there. It was a lot of men. And they said, I can't say the word because the little kids are here, but they said, well, our main marketing goal is to make you
A bull.
Blankable.
Blankable.
And I was shocked and just kind of frozen, like I didn't know what to do. You know, it was unbelievably disrespectful and crass, and you know, you don't know how to react in that moment. But I think the inner reaction I had is to put my head down, show up for work. I'm not going to show a lot of skin because that's what they want me to do. and I'm just gonna let this stuff roll off of me. And, you know, I know it's still not the best, but back then in the late 70s and early 80s, in the music business, I mean, there was a lot of bad stuff happen. Women were not treated that well. And I know a lot of women who quit because of it. Like, I don't want to take this. But for some reason, I was able to let it roll off because I wanted to be good at what I did so badly, and I wasn't going to let anybody distract me from that.
Well, not to put you on the spot as a pontificator or an expert, but when you look at Nashville now, they still don't play two women in a row on country radio.
They don't?
I don't think.
Well, they told me that back when I would go to radio stations. They'd say, "Oh, we can't play two women in a row," or they'd have their playlist and they'd say, "Oh, we already have a woman on the playlist. Can't put any more women on the playlist." It's like, why?
Does it feel like the same place?
I can't imagine it is, but is it? It is.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
I don't know. I mean, there was a documentary film being made, something about what women go through in the industry and everything. I said, you know, I have an exhibit at the Country Music Hall of Fame up right now. I'm too old to wear that agenda anymore. Obviously, I think women deserve to be treated with equal respect. Obviously, we are not the B team. We're not, you know, smaller versions of men that are kind of dysfunctional. We have our own place in the world. We bring separate, different, equal gifts to the world and should be accepted that way. And in a lot of spheres, we're not. But keep your head down and show up for work, right?
Yeah. So you've been deeply involved in activism on various fronts in recent years, probably more than I know. Going back, you've testified before Congress on the issue of fair pay for those who make art, copyright protection. You've been a supporter of Black Lives Matter, gun control, women's rights, other causes. So this has been a week. How?
Oh, God.
How are you feeling? You know, listeners, music lovers, we look to artists for hope. How do you hold on to hope?
I just go back to that Toni Morrison quote that this is the time artists show up for work. This is the time to do your work. And also, you know, it's really difficult, scary time right now, and people need inspiration. They need optimism and hope for the future, and to have their best parts of themselves reflected back to them through music and art. And they need a sense of community. And to me, one of the most powerful communities you can create is through music, and how that connects us. And you know, the hatred and division and judgment and little cruelties, I feel like basically people are good, and that can be met with so much love and goodness that it can be wiped out. I do believe that. And I'm keeping my head down and showing up for work. I have stopped doom scrolling. I really limit how much of the news I take in. You can't get pulled down the rabbit hole with every new kind of horror or scary thing. I know I'm sounding like I'm trite, but I went out on stage the other night, and I just opened with this civil rights song that Mavis Staples sang called "Turn Me Around." Ain't gonna let no cruelty turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no cruelty turn me around. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on to freedom land.
Yeah. Thank
You got to turn to Mavis.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and one more thing about Mavis is that her civil rights work and her activism was done with pure love. There was no pettiness, no judgment, no bitterness or anger in it. It all came from a spirit of love, and that's kind of what I look to. I mean, I am so not Mavis, but man, I hold her up as a standard.
Another question related to activism. You're writing music now, or lyrics, maybe, if I have it right, for a off-Broadway or Broadway production of the story of Norma Rae, the celebrated, based somewhat on the story maybe of the celebrated 1979 film,
Yeah.
in which Sally Field played a textile worker, labor organizer.
Yeah.
What interested you about that story, and what's it like doing that, working in the Broadway system?
Yeah, the theater world makes the music business look simple. It's really complicated. So the book writer for the play and a producer, they came to us and they said they're doing the story of Norma Rae. They want to do it for Broadway. Would John and I be interested in doing the music? So John is the composer and I'm the lyricist. And we're now 7 years into this. You know, Hamilton took 10 years, so I'm holding that up like, okay, we can do it. It's been a really challenging and interesting process. In the first 2 years, I said, I am never doing this again. And in the last 2 years, I said, I can't wait to do this again. Because writing in the voice of other characters who aren't me and getting inside their lives and, you know, people in the 1970s who work in a textile mill in North Carolina, I don't have that experience. But how do I find her voice, their voices, what they long for, what they love, what they feel connected to, you know, what their dreams are. And that has been a beautiful experience, just to connect with someone else's humanity and what their sense of poetry is. It's been good. It's been challenging, and I really hope we can get it on stage.
We have just a bit of some music that you've been working on with John.
Which song?
I want to say Hurricane, is that right?
Hurricane, right.
If we have the clip ready, we can hear just a little
I
bit.
remember when I was in school, the long and empty days, when the future was a mystery, so many things I couldn't say, and the sound of my blood rushing was the one thing that I knew. Then nothing came from nothing, nothing real or true. I was the one with my eyes shut so tight. I thought that smoke and mirrors were the same as the light. Now the wind blows through my life, and it could take everything inside. But where is the hurricane?
Wow.
She sings that at the moment she realizes her life is not working and something's got to change and she doesn't know what it is.
So you've been working on a new album.
I have been, and I'm excited about it.
Tell us about it. Where are you in the process? And yeah, tell us, describe it.
Well, we're halfway through. John and I are doing it together again. We've been working together for 30 years now. Most of these songs, I'm writing lyrics and he's writing music. There is one song I wrote with Matt Berninger, who's the lead singer in the band The National, and love his voice. It's more rooted than my last record. It's got more of what The River and the Thread had. It's more, I want to say, dark folk country. kind of gothic country. I don't know if that's a thing at the record store, Ben, but it's very rooted. And the themes are, it's like I can't write about falling in love for the first time or a breakup, It's like lyrics from a life of a lot of experiences.
And release date in mind, or?
Well, I'm hoping this fall, maybe late fall.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, time is whizzing by, so we would love to hear a few questions from folks out here. And
So, did you see the Dylan movie? Your dad had kind of a big part of that Dylan movie, which I thought was pretty cool. Did you see that? Have you heard about that?
I've been told to repeat the questions when they're asked. They asked if you've seen any good movies lately. No, he asked about the Dylan movie.
Okay, so I didn't want to see it. My husband saw it. I didn't want to see it because I have personal experiences with great artists being reduced to 2-hour Hollywood movies. And also, apart from that, I had my own experience of Dylan. I grew up in that era, and he was a seminal artist for me, and still is. And I just didn't want to see a version of him that was truncated into 2 hours, or that was not true, or that was, the Gen Z version of Dylan. I just didn't have an interest in it. I'm friends with Dylan's manager, Jeff Rosen, and put this under the cone of silence. But Jeff wrote me not long ago, maybe a week ago, and apologized because he didn't think that my dad was portrayed fairly. And I said, man, you don't owe me an apology. I know how the film industry works. Things get taken over. Somebody has an agenda. This fits the scene, but even if it isn't true, we'll twist it this way. So I know how all of it works, and I just wasn't interested. I heard that a lot of people really liked it, and I'm glad. A lot of people introduced to Dylan for the first time, which is great.
Yes, right there.
As you were developing the lyrics for the Broadway show,
Yeah.
did you listen to any of the musical influences on what those characters might have been doing to influence you in their culture?
So this is a question about influences that inspired you or that you're thinking about as you're working on those lyrics.
She asked about the Broadway show. Did I listen to songs or music that would have been influential on the characters? Is that what you're saying? Yes, we did very much. And not just what was modern then, but also old union organizing songs and Woody Guthrie songs. And yeah, those were powerful influences. And then we also thought, what would they have been listening to on the jukebox when they went to a bar? So we went into all surrounding areas of music as we were writing. And also then we started listening to a lot of Sondheim and, different musical theater soundtracks and scores. So it's been an education. Hi. She's asking about my grandmother, Carrie, and if she was an influence on me as a mother and in my life in general. Is that right? Yeah. Well, my daughter, Carrie, is here, and I named Carrie after my grandmother, Carrie. I adored my grandmother, Carrie. One of my favorite stories about her is she gave birth to 5 of her 7 children at home. And first in a house that had no running water or electricity. And one of the babies, she was in labor for 3 days. And every day, the doctor came by in a horse and buggy to check on her, see how she's doing. And he would pull a couple of aspirins out of his pocket and give to her. That's all she had every day. It was the same pocket in which he kept his fishing worms. She said, "Oh, honey, it was the same pocket he kept his fishing worms." Gave me those aspirin. I said, how did you get through it?" She said, "Why, honey, you just endure it." You know, that was her mantra throughout her life. You just endure it. She had a lot of grief and sorrow and a lot of hard work. You know what? When we play in a bit, when John comes out and play, the first song I'm going to play is She's the Hero of the Song, the first song.
Another question?
Over here.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm kind of curious about how you create over the years your set list. When do you decide to start? How do you honor your past? What do you, again, how do you put that song list together?
He's asking about my set list over the years and how I managed to get 45 years worth of catalog into one show. Well, I figure that people, there's certain songs they want to hear, 7-Year Ache or the big hits, you know. And I think that if they paid their discretionary income and got a babysitter, they deserve to hear those songs, right? Even if I'm tired of singing it. And also, a song, it's like you have a relationship with a song like a person. It changes over time. A song I've been singing 45 years, to me now, it has a certain sweetness because it's like singing a song my daughter wrote, you know? It's that old. But, you know, it's a balance of new, old. Sometimes I'll change it out in the middle of the set. I'll go, I don't feel like doing that one, let's do this one. But usually I have a set. It's a balancing act, drawing from the past, the present, not making the whole set that people just want to kill themselves. It's so depressing, you know. If you have any ideas, I'd be happy to have them.
Time for one more question? Yeah.
Hi. Uh-oh. We have time for 2 more questions, I'm afraid, Archie.
Let's play 2.
And how you go about it, you just like, you know, like I switched over from, I did radio, we played your songs back in the 90s in Portland, Oregon, big deal, by the way. And I just wondered how you come about writing your songs, like me, like I was on the plane, I was trying to songwrite, and I just like grabbed a book bag and started writing on it, or whatever. You know, do you do it compulsively like that, or do you have you sit down at a certain time, or how does that, do you mind tell me a little bit about that?
I think that at this point, I'm always writing, you know, and I keep a lot of notes on my phone. I have a lot of journals where I take notes by hand. It's just always going on. I've got so many lyrics in process right now, and sometimes I will find that I can take a verse from this that I was working on and a chorus from this, and it somehow works together. I mean, I'm not someone who sits down at 9 and writes until 5. I've never been able to do that. But it's just always going on. I don't know how else to explain it. Okay. And this gentleman was the last one.
We've been big fans for years. We've seen
Thank you.
time together, and we've seen you with the band. Country music all the time. But through the years, you've just been an inspiration to us. We can play and sing songs.
Thank you.
And your Instagram account is wonderful. And I appreciate that because when it comes up, it's like a breath of fresh air. So hang in there.
Thank you. Is that it? You were just going to say something nice to me? Thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome.
That's interesting that you say that. I was thinking, should I just quit social media? You know, some of it just gets like a minefield sometimes. But Instagram's kind of fun. So I'll stick there for a while. Okay. Thank you.
Well, we're going to take a very, very brief break to turn the stage over, and then we'll have a short set of music. So,
All right, thank you.
well, we're back. It looks strangely different. Good. Well, yeah. First, I want to bring out John Leventhal, who is recipient of numerous Grammys. He is an incredible, yes, guitar player, multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, record producer, expert collaborator, John Leventhal.
Thank you. Somebody asked about my grandmother Carrie, so I want to do this song. So this is a song about the Sunken Lands of Arkansas. And they're called the Sunken Lands because in an earthquake in the year 1811, the land around the Mississippi River actually sank by up to 50 feet in some places. And that gumbo soil turned inside out for centuries. So 130 years later, FDR created a resettlement community in the Sunken Lands for 500 desperately poor farmers and their families. And the Cash family moved there in 1932. 1935. My dad was 3 years old. And this hero of this song is Carrie Cash. She raised 7 children. She picked cotton. No time for leisure. Married to a man who could be unkind. She never complained. She said when they moved into this home that was their salvation, that there were 5 empty cans of paint sitting on the front porch of a freshly painted new cottage. Five cans of paint in the empty fields and the dust reveals the children cry, the work never ends, there's not a single friend. Who will hold her hand in the sunken lands? The mud and tears melt the cotton bolls, and it's a heavy toll. Oh, oh. His words are cruel and they sting like fire. The devil's choir. Oh, oh. Who will hold her hand in the sunken lands? The river rises and she sails away. She could never stay. Oh, oh. Her work is done in the sunken
There's 5 empty cans.
Yeah, but I got to retune. So.
Thank you. That was from my album, The River and the Thread. I'm doing another song from The River and the Thread. I want to do this for my friend Natalie Channon, who gave me the inspiration to write the lyrics for this song. I was visiting her in Florence, Alabama, and she was teaching me how to sew. And as she threaded the needle, she said, "Honey, you have to learn to love the thread." And I started to cry. She wasn't speaking in metaphors, but I heard it that way. And we took a long journey through the South, and John and I wrote this song that's kind of a hero's journey through the southern states. This is called A Feather's Not a Bird.
Going down to Florence, gonna wear a pretty dress and sit atop the magic wall with the voices in my head. Then I'll drive on through to Memphis, past the strongest shoals, and on to Arkansas just to touch the gumbo soul. A feather's not a bird, the rain is not the sea, a stone is not a mountain, but a river runs through me. There's never any highway when you're looking for the past. The land becomes a memory and it happens way too fast. All the money's all in Nashville, the lights inside my head. So I'm going down to Florence to learn to love the thread. A feather's not a bird, the rain is not the sea, a stone is not a mountain, but a river runs through me. There's never any highway when you're looking for the past. The land becomes a memory and it happens way too fast. That's why I'm going down to Florence, I got a pretty dress. I'm gonna let the magic wall put the voices in my head. A feather's not a bird, the rain is not the sea, a stone is not a mountain, but a river runs through me. A feather's not a bird, the rain is not the sea, a stone is not a mountain. A feather's not a bird, the rain is not the sea, a stone is not a mountain, but a river runs through me.
Thank you. Okay. I wrote this song when I was 23 years old. And like I said before, it's like sometimes singing a song that Carrie wrote or Caitlin. So I want to do this for Carrie and Caitlin and Willoughby and Olive and Dan. I wrote this long before Willoughby and Olive were on the planet. Guess this means good night. You come in and start right in, not treating me right. And misery is a bore and all its company. I'll play the victim for you, honey, but not for free. I run into that heartache just like a wall, and act like nothing happened to me, nothing at all. Lately I'm amazed at how blind we can be. Lately even dreaming feels like old reality. What would I give to be a diamond in your eyes again? What would I give to bring back those old times? What did I say to make your cold heart beat this way? Maybe I'll just go away today. And I don't care who's waiting at my front door. You know that life don't hold no glamour anymore. And how can it all look so right and feel so wrong? I'll play the victim for you, honey, but not for long. What would I give to be a diamond in your eyes again? What would I give to bring back those old times? What did I
this way. Maybe I'll just go away today. Maybe I'll just go away to stay. I was just thinking about where I am and thinking about the music and the lives and the work and the legacy in this museum and in these archives, and thinking how much of my own family history is here. And it's something that I'm so proud of, that the legacy that I've inherited and is housed here, and that being so cared for and treasured in the same way that my family treasures it. The rest of my family now and my grandchildren will learn to treasure it. And I was thinking about what we talked about the Carter women and how important they were to me and how much I learned from them. And, you know, there's a lot of the artifacts of their lives just upstairs here. So if you have a chance to see it, go see it. And I'm going to do, I think, maybe the second song I ever learned on guitar that Helen Carter taught me. And I recorded this on the list. My heart is sad and I'm in sorrow for the only one I love. When shall I see him? Oh, no, never, till we meet in heaven above. Oh, bury me beneath the willow, under the weeping willow tree, so he may know where I am sleeping, and perhaps he'll weep for me.
Threw me a curve there.
RJ, I see it's 4:57. Do we have a hard out at 5? Do we have time for one
Yes.
more or two more? We have time for more. Two more. Okay, good. All right, so we're going to do...
What are we going to do? What are we doing? Keep me in suspense.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
I'm just going to guess. We'll see if we're gonna
whenever
play
you
the same
start
song.
playing, I'll sing. Go ahead. This song, when I was 18 years old, my dad gave me this list of songs that he made on the back of a tour bus one day. He wrote down this with a Sharpie and a yellow legal pad, and he wrote 100 essential country songs. And he gave it to me, and he said, "This is your education." And it was, and I had the good sense to save that list and made an album of songs from that list in 2010. And this song, I think, is near the top of the list, his list, my list, and the list of anyone who really loves American roots music.
Sorry, I'm having the hardest time keeping this thing in tune today.
Years ago, on a cold, dark night, there was someone killed 'neath the town hall light. There were few at the scene, but they all did agree that the slayer who ran looked a lot like me. The judge said, "Son, what is your alibi? If you were somewhere else, then you won't have to die." I spoke not a word, though it meant my life, for I'd been in the arms of my best friend's wife. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. The scaffold is high and eternity near. She stood in the crowd and shed not a tear. But sometimes at night, when the cold wind moans in a long black veil, she cries on my bones. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me.
do one more, but I want to thank RJ. Thank you so much. And Mick Buck. And the entire staff here who has been so gracious to me. I cannot begin to tell you what an honor it is to have my life in that gallery and to be treated so tenderly and respectfully. I really appreciate it so much. It's an honor I'll always hold right here. All right, this is another one I wrote when I was 23. And I've got my pick, so it's going to get a little loud. You might want to turn it down.
I'm trying my best. This tuner really sucks. Just telling you.
Like you were just born tonight, face down into memory, but feeling alright. So who does your past belong to today? Baby, you don't say nothing when you're feeling this way. The girls in the bar saying, who is this guy? They don't think nothing when they're telling you lies. And you look so careless when they're shooting that bull. Don't you know heartaches are heroes when their pockets are full? You tell me you're trying to kill the 7-year ache, to see what else your old heart can take. The boys say, when is he gonna give us a room? The girls say, God, I hope he comes back soon. Everybody's talking, but you don't hear a thing. Still uptown on your downhill swing. The boulevard's empty, why don't you come around? Baby, what is so great about sleeping downtown? There's plenty of times to be someone you're not. Just say you're looking for something you might have forgot. And don't bother calling to say you're leaving alone. There's a fool on every corner when you're trying to get home. Just tell her you're trying to kill the 7-year ache, and see what else your old heart can take. Boys say, when is he gonna give us some room? The girls say, God, I hope he comes back soon. Just tell her you're trying to kill the 7-year ache, and see what else your old heart can take. Boys say, when is he gonna give us some room? The girls say, God, I hope he comes back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Leventhal.